Hello everyone and welcome to a new video series on the Backmarkers F1 Show channel. If you don't already know, my name is Chris, 1/3 of the Backmarkers F1 Show team, and I'm happy to be bringing you a new series on our channel that's going to be previewing every single race weekend this season in the 2020 season. So basically I'm just going to try and give you a short, concise, and informative race preview for everything that you need to know about the upcoming Grand Prix. It's going to be broken down into 4 parts. We're going to be taking a look at the circuit info. Then we're going to look at a hot lap of the circuit, courtesy of F1 2020. Then I'm going to be breaking down some of the news and the rumors heading into the race weekend, and then finishing off with just some predictions and some of my own thoughts about the upcoming race weekend. Now, if you like this video, or if you're more interested to know more about our channel, I'd recommend checking out our podcast we did with Williams F1 driver Nicholas Latifi in the preseason back in February. Really great interview. He said a lot of really cool things, so I think you're going to like that one. All right, so let's get into the preview for the 2020 British Grand Prix. So taking a look at the circuit info for round number 4 of the 2020 World Championship in Silverstone, we're pretty much heading to the home of Formula One, one of the most original and old school circuits on the calendar, dating back to 1950. It's a personal favorite of mine. I really enjoy this track, and I think that a lot of the drivers agree with me as well, and they love coming home here. Obviously, it's a home base for many of the teams, with the exception of AlphaTauri and Ferrari, so it's a very familiar circuit to everybody. It's a 5.8 kilometer circuit. It's going to be contested over 52 laps. Lewis Hamilton holds the lap record set here last year in 2019, and if the opening races are any indication, I think that those lap records here are also going to fall pretty dramatically. We got 2 DRS zones, first one being between turns 5 and 6 as you head into Brooklands, with the detection zone being just before turn 3, and then the second DRS zone is on the hangar straight between turns 14 and 15, and that detection zone comes just before turn 11. Now, this is going to vary depending on where you are in the world, but qualifying does start on Saturday at 2 p.m. UK time, and then the race starts at 2:10 p.m. UK time on the Sunday. So just head to f1.com and they've got a nice little convert your local track time, and then you'll be able to see what time each session starts wherever you are in the world. Lewis Hamilton, he's going to be looking for his 7th win around the Silverstone circuit. He actually holds the record for most wins here at the British Grand Prix with 6. I mean, he's pretty much got a bunch of records already in the bag, and he's going to break a bunch more to come in 2020. So he's got a little bit more history to be made this Sunday at British Grand Prix. All right, so in terms of the car setup, I'm going to sound really technical and really smart here for the next couple of minutes, so pay close attention. But it's one of the highest average speed circuits on the calendar, with a handful of straights and high-speed corners. But those high-speed corners put a ton of demand on the tires, which we're going to get to a little bit later. Of course, the Sector 2 combo of Maggots and Beckett's probably one of the most famous corner combinations in all of F1. It's definitely a bucket list of mine to go and watch cars go through there in person, just because the amount of G-force that's produced nowadays by F1 cars is just ridiculous, and it's pretty much just going through there like a fighter jet. So it's one of the best places to go and watch cars go through there. But it's not as if you're going to take out a bunch of downforce and trim out the rear and front wings for maximizing speed. You want to have a decent amount of downforce on the car for these high-speed corners, but also some of the low-speed corner sections like in Club and in Luffield. You want to find a good balance of being able to get good traction of the slow-speed corners to maximize your speed for the long straights. And one of the interesting things I was thinking about actually is Mercedes will be able to use their DAS system pretty handily around this track. We know how important stability is around Silverstone, so if they're able to manipulate the toe during the race, maybe when high tire wear comes into play. Silverstone, we also get a lot of safety cars as well, so if they're able to use that on maybe a colder track surface to warm up the tires, I mean, it's not like Mercedes doesn't have every other advantage already in the book, but just one thing to keep an eye on for this weekend. Tire overheating, it's a pretty big issue around this circuit, definitely a lot more than it was at the Hungaroring or at the Red Bull Ring, and just due to the high-speed corners and the prolonged corners, for example, in Turn 1. So Pirelli are bringing the C1, C2, and the C3 tires for this weekend. It's the first time that we're seeing the C1 tires this season. Important to note also that the track has been resurfaced the last 2 years, and Pirelli do say that this year, though, the track should be a little bit less slippery. There should be less oil on the track, so it's should be able to provide a little bit more grip, according to Pirelli. Okay, so let's take a look at the weather forecast for this weekend's British Grand Prix. Looking at the Friday, it's going to be a hot one. Going to be hot for free practice, mostly sunny, 31 degrees. But the good news for maybe some of the teams comes on Saturday and on Sunday. It's going to get significantly cooler, 22 degrees only on Saturday for qualifying. And then when we get to race day on Sunday, partly cloudy, 20 degrees Celsius. Now, I think that personally, this is the best news for Mercedes, whose really only Achilles heel seems to be hot weather. So if it's going to be cooler under race conditions for them, it's going to be very important. So keep an eye on that. Very small percentage of chance of rain on the Sunday and virtually none on the Saturday and for Friday as well. So we should be expecting a dry race weekend. Okay, well, now that you've tolerated all my technical rambling and now you have all this information and you can sound smart with your friends and your family, let's actually take a look at the hot lap of the circuit. That's what you guys want to see. So let's take a look at how you get around this 5.8 kilometer circuit. Okay, so there you have it. That's a hot lap of the Silverstone circuit. I think it's a decent lap. I definitely could have gotten a lot more time there out of Sector 3 if I was a little bit more aggressive, but nonetheless, you get the point and you get to see sort of where the best areas are around the track. I think that there's a lot of overtaking areas that can be done on this track. Of course, down into turn 16 and 17, we saw Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc battle it out last season. We even saw their battle continue down into turn 3, turn 4, and then 5. We saw Sebastian Vettel pull off a race-winning move in turn 6 heading into Brooklands on Bottas a couple years ago. So there's actually plenty of overtaking places here. It's really only through Maggots and Beckett's that we really want to keep single file, but you know, even then you can still try and overtake. So it's very an exciting track in that regard. Okay, so let's move on to the news of this week. This is a little bit old news, but I'll cover it anyway. F1 have confirmed additional rounds at the Nürburgring, the Portimao circuit, and at Imola. So these three we have two new circuits on the calendar, Mugello and Portimao, that Formula One has never raced at, which is going to be really exciting. Nürburgring, the last time F1 was there was 7 years ago when Sebastian Vettel and Red Bull won that race. And the interesting to note about the Imola circuit is that it will be a new condensed race weekend format in which track activity will take place over 2 days instead of 3. So the championship is also believed to be considering whether to allow a limited number of spectators to attend the October event at the Portuguese Grand Prix in Portimao. So fingers crossed some of the fans will be able to attend in person, but we'll have to wait and see what the decision is on that one. So it should be really exciting. We've never had Formula One at Mugello, and we've never had it at Portimao. The Portimao circuit, we've had testing done there by a couple of teams that have done a couple of runs there. Portugal is not new to Formula One, of course. They've held Grand Prix at Jerez. They've also held it at Estoril. So they're very familiar with Formula One in Portugal. But the fact that we never raced at this circuit is really, really exciting. And I'm actually going to be doing a video breaking down the Portimao circuit, which should be coming in the next couple of days, just to get you guys a little bit more familiar with the track, because I didn't know it either. So you guys will be learning along with me. So very excited for the new tracks coming this season. Okay, so getting back to the race weekend in Britain, Williams will be bringing a quote-unquote powerful upgrade for the British Grand Prix. So Williams have had a pretty good start to the season. They've been very, very impressive so far. Both cars made it into Q2 back in Hungary, and now they're bringing some significant updates to the car for both cars. In Hungary, they were flip-flopping which car would get the upgrade, but they haven't really specified yet where the upgrades are coming in terms of whether it's engine power, chassis, or aerodynamics. They ran some suspension updates in Austria. They ran some aerodynamic updates in Hungary. So they're not sure what it is, but they think that it's significant enough that they're going to be bringing it to both cars this weekend. So I'm going to get a little bit more into Williams when I get to my race predictions, but they're going to be bringing some upgrades for them. News on Red Bull, Alex Albon is getting a new race engineer for the remainder of the season. And it's actually somebody you guys will probably remember, and Simon Rennie. Now, if that name is familiar to you, that's because Rennie was Daniel Ricciardo's race engineer from 2014 to 2018. And that's when Rennie got actually a promotion to a factory role. And that was actually one of the biggest factors in, no pun intended, in Daniel Ricciardo actually leaving Red Bull for Renault, because he had a very close relationship with Simon Rennie. If you remember back to the Monaco Grand Prix in 2018, all the communication between them is very clear when a driver and an engineer has a really good partnership, kind of like Max and GP. Their relationship is very strong. So Simon Rennie's an excellent race engineer, and he helped Daniel Ricciardo become a race winner immediately after getting that Red Bull seat in 2014. So this should be a good step for Alex Albon. It'll help that he has an experienced race engineer who has experience working with younger drivers. So hopefully that'll help Albon and the team figure out whatever issues Red Bull's been dealing with the past couple of races, and hopefully they'll be able to join the fight with Mercedes. Hopefully. And one of the last things, this was coming out today, that Gulf have partnered with McLaren to announce a new multi-year partnership covering F1 and luxury supercars. And no, I'm not talking about the most boring sport in the world, golf. I'm talking about golf with a U. Now, if you're not familiar with Gulf Oil, you'll probably recognize their colors and their livery schemes back in the Can-Am cars and the Le Mans 24-hour race, and also the McLaren GTR cars. They're very famous, those teal, orange kind of colors. So I don't think there will be any significant livery change for McLaren, but they'll be adding a couple of their logos onto the car. So that's a new deal for McLaren. And then lastly, we should be hearing of some sort of decision in the hearing between Renault and Racing Point. Of course, Renault launched 2 protests against Racing Point, one after the Styrian Grand Prix and then one after the Hungarian Grand Prix as well. So they're expecting some decision to be made before Silverstone in terms of when the hearing is going to be or when a decision can be expected. Of course, they want a decision to come pretty fast, because then Racing Point needs to know what they want to do forward. If the car is found illegal, they have to make changes. And if it's not found legal, then they should be okay. But we definitely want to see some sort of a decision made on that sooner rather than later. All right, so that's all the news and the rumors that we have heading into this race weekend. A little bit quiet, but nonetheless, some important things for you to know. So just to finish off the final part of this race preview, my predictions and my thoughts for the race this weekend. Well, what you can really expect at the British Grand Prix is going to be more Mercedes dominance. I think that Hungary was a big shock to everybody, seeing Red Bull take an even further step backward, kind of Ferrari style almost. Not that bad, but still a significant step backward. Of course, had it not been for Max Verstappen and his race engineers, they probably would have only had one car in the race, but Mercedes seemed to somehow even extend their dominance even more this season in the past couple races. And I just don't think that Red Bull's in a position where they're going to be able to challenge. So I think that Mercedes will be in for another front row lockout, and hopefully Verstappen will be able to at least split the Mercedes like he did in Hungary and tried to do in Austria. I think Racing Point and Red Bull will actually be the ones challenging for that final podium spot. Racing Point have a car that can challenge for podiums week in and week out. They just haven't brought it together yet. Lance Stroll came very close in Hungary, finishing P4. But I think that their power advantage with the Mercedes engine on the long straight should come into play and should give them a little bit of an advantage over Red Bull. So I think that Racing Point will actually be a little bit faster than Red Bull at this track, just because of the longer straights. And speaking of Williams, as I mentioned before, I think they're going to have a really good weekend. Even without the updates, I think that they were heading in the right direction, but fingers crossed for them, these updates can be really good. And if they can bring some significant performance upgrades, they've already had 2 cars into Q2 in Hungary. They already had 1 car into Q2 in Austria and almost into Q3 as well. So I think Williams are heading in really a good direction. And I think for Ferrari as well, it really won't be another easy weekend for them. I know that the Ferrari CEO has come out and said that they really shouldn't be expecting anything much until 2022 when the new generation of cars come out. So I don't think that this track will be very good for Ferrari as well because of the long straights. They're going to struggle on engine power. They seem to have the slowest power unit on the circuit this season. And they're going to use valuable time also in the high-speed corners as well with the instability in the car that they have aerodynamically. So I really think it's going to be another tough week for Ferrari. I mean, what's new? They've had 3 tough weekends so far, and I don't think that it will get any easier. And that'll do it for my 2020 British Grand Prix preview. I thank you very much for joining. So this is a new video series. So we're going to be doing one of these for every single race this weekend. We are going to be doing one next week for the 70th anniversary Grand Prix at the same circuit. It's going to be a little bit different though. We're not going to look at a hot lap of the circuit, and we're not going to look at the circuit info just because we've already done that. So I actually want you guys to send me in some questions, whether it's about the circuit or whether it's about the race itself or anything F1 related. Drop them in the comments of this video or tweet us at TBMF1 Show, and I'll dedicate a segment of the show next weekend from the preview of that race to answering your questions. So thanks again for watching. If you like this video and you want to know more about our channel, check out all the podcasts that we've done so far in our season and all of our other uploads from the past seasons as well on our YouTube channel homepage. If you're also interested in more content from the Backmarkers F1 Show channel, visit www.tbmf1show.com for photos, written articles, additional videos, and everything you want to know about the Backmarkers F1 Show. Leave a like in this video and a subscribe if you enjoy what you watched, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks again.